Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Coaching. My name is Kim Butts, international leadership coach, trainer and facilitator, and host the Lunchtime series where we add value to people's lives happening every day at 12 on ebizradio.com. Today we've got Liezl Reid, who's back with us, professional coach and HR advisor. Liezl, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. And I'm so glad to be back. Thanks for asking me to come back.
Yes, I've gone through all the interviews I've done in the last, it's almost a year now. And I was thinking, like, what are the good conversations I've had with people and who have I really gelled with? And I was like, yes, let's chat to Liezl because 2021 really needs insight, a creative brain, and that's what we spoke about last time is creative thinking and how to do that more effectively. But today's topic is really interesting. Today's topic, as we've just spoken before we started, is all about, well, you tell us, you preface it and share with us what we're going to chat about.
Sure. So basically, I had to come back from the holiday and realize that 2021 is here, whether I wanted it to be here or not. Yeah. And what am I going to do with it now? And it wasn't just a form of reflection or a form of how was 2020 and what did I learn? Because I'm almost tired to think of 2020. I want to start thinking of new things. Yeah. So the perspective that I got was just to say, okay, what's going to be different for me as a human? And then what's going to be different for me as a business owner? And then I'm also putting on a new hat for the year, which is super exciting, is I'm starting my doctorate, my PhD as a candidacy at Stellenbosch University. I got awarded a scholarship. I got awarded the graduate scholarship there. Yeah. So that's going to be exciting, but I'm still within the realm of entrepreneurship, still with coaching, so it's mainly coaching. But then what does it all mean? That was my biggest question. I kept going, so what? I want to continue my business. I want to continue my studies. I want to be a good human being. But so what? What is it actually going to matter? And also, how am I going to make sure that I actually do what I set myself out now to accomplish? Because I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I think it's it's a little bit of a thing that you say because you have to say it, and then you end up not doing it, and you end up making yourself feel guilty about it. So this is the whole So I want to talk a bit about Bandura's self-efficacy, where you really you establish a belief in what you're going to do, and if your mindset and your belief really supports what your action is going to be, your likelihood of actually committing to the action, seeing the action through, and then performing and then completing the action is going to be much more likelier than if you don't have that mindset and that belief in place already. And I think for an entrepreneur, for a student, for any individual, really, it's just the kind of the message I would like to share today.
So, I mean, and just to mention, for those who are listening and know, Albert Bandura is, I was just looking at Wikipedia, and it's just, he was the dude that spoke about behavior, observation, imitation, and modeling. And something I'm really passionate about. So I'm excited to hear about what this topic is and chatting about it, because I think, 2021, talking about self-efficacy, the resilience, how you really implement this, how you get to creating that belief, and how do you support that with behavior is unbelievably important. Considering I had a bit of a meltdown earlier last week with all the COVID deaths that I see happening online, and I was quite perturbed by it. I was really not okay for about half a day, and I was like, okay, cool. So I need to get my brain on board and just recoup myself a bit. But I mean, and I think that's part and parcel of why this conversation is so important. Because as much as we are entrepreneurs, we're business people, we are people in making stuff happen in the world, we're also affected by COVID. We're affected by mental health and how things happening in our families and in our friendship circles are directly influencing how we perform and how we show up. And if we're not aware of that and what impact that's going to have, it's really going to drive us into sort of a different space. But I mean, tell us more about this. Tell us exactly what we should be, what this conversation is.
So that's exactly where I would like to actually start the story. That's exactly what you say. It's starting, this whole COVID situation is becoming it's so close to home. It's so close to home, and it's so close to us. It's now a proper threat, where last year we heard stories. We heard that someone in another province, maybe someone you went to school with 10 years ago, had it. It was still it was real, but not that real in a way. There was a lot of cognitive dissonance, I think, from a lot of people. And then as it progressed and things, I mean, I personally know of family members in my own circle that have succumbed to it. And it's so real. So where I'm coming from this is that, and the thing with self-efficacy is, to put it really simply, it's a person's belief in their ability to succeed in a particular situation. And that's what I really love about this theory, because the key word here is situation, particular situation. So if you take it and you say, okay, let's look at a negative situation like COVID, how are the medical professionals coping? So this theory really ties in a lot of the work that I do already. So the creative thinking, there's a role for creative thinking and divergent thinking to take place. There's a role for problem solving. There's a role for actually going back and seeing, who are you as a human? What are your values? What are your beliefs? And how does this all fit into this particular context and this particular situation? So it can really be morphed into any form of situation. And I think it's a foundation, because you wouldn't know what drives your behavior if you don't know what your belief is in that sort of action or behavior that you want to succeed in. Like, why is it important to you? So it's sort of, and for the entrepreneur, same story. This year is going to be quite a roller coaster for business owners and to entrepreneurs. But at the same time, use it. It's go look at what is it that you believe in, what is it that you want to achieve, and really believe that you are capable of it, regardless of the situation. So, yeah.
I think it's so interesting, because a while back, I was doing a lot of training for call centers. And what I noticed was a lot of the call center agents don't have enough confidence. And when I did research and found small little strategies and ways to actually cultivate confidence more, the two things that come up is self-esteem and self-efficacy. And it really lends itself to, well, how do I know when I'm self-efficient? How do I know that I'm actually effective in what I'm doing? And how do I show up? What are those behaviors and micro behaviors that I'm taking on a day-to-day basis to really implement these changes? Do you think that sort of also lends itself to what it is you're doing and how you're taking this approach?
This is exactly that this theory really lends itself to it's almost like a cornerstone to motivation, to self-esteem, because if you're going to be able to see an action through and you extract the learnings and you get that confidence boost because you go, hey, I reached my goal, I succeeded, I solved this problem, I managed to overcome this challenge, even though it was horrible. I actually overcame it. I don't know how, don't ask me now, but I did it. That's all. It's boosting. That's boosting of the self. It's boosting of your skills. It's boosting of who you are as a human and what sort of context you're in. So it's also a validation. It's validating that, you know what, yes, the world is really not a fun place right now, but this is a little bit of self-esteem that I can extract as validation that, you know what, I'm still okay and I'm doing good work still. And it's those little pearls or gemstones, it's very hard to find, especially in the time we're in. And it's important to still stop and acknowledge. It's not being selfish or being full of yourself and stuff like that, but you do need to be able to say, I did that. and it's okay. I'm still okay. And I continued adding value. And the interesting thing here is that it's such a lovely way to think about your life in a way where do you get, what resources do you have to extract experiences? So with the self-efficacy, there's four efficacy judgments, if you can call it that. And basically you have the mastery of the experience itself. So that's the performance. So you're mastering the challenge or whatever it is, the goal, the outcome, or whatever it is that you want to master. With that comes skill. And then obviously with the skills comes confidence and all those things. And then it's also being influenced and encouraged and being inspired by other people. Maybe say people that you admire, people in your network, maybe a celebrity that you watch in the movies or whatever, people that do something that inspires you to do something as well. So they call that vicarious experience. And then you have also the verbal persuasions, which I love, because it's actually such a nice way to say, this is where the coach fits in, or this is where the mentor fits in. So verbal persuasion, or this is where my colleague or my friend or my partner fits in, because they really sit in your network with the support structure and the support lens, and really just try and persuade you to continue and support you and say, hey, let's influence and let's encourage you. Let's stand outside and wave our little flags. And that's the verbal persuasion. And the coach, that's where the coach, I think the essence of coaching is for a lot of people, is having that accountability and encouragement through the whole process of the experience. And then you have your physiological feedback. So when you get it, it's emotionally, it might be uplifting, and you might feel great, and it actually might influence further behavior in the future. Obviously, I'm talking a lot from the more positive perspective.
Yeah.
But you can. That's where the reframing comes in, where it's challenging. Like, for example, with the COVID and what the medical staff must be going through. I had a conversation with someone that said that medical staff at the moment are so burnt out because they are in that almost a sense of hell.
Yeah.
They see on the front line what's happening, and it impacts your motivation. It impacts your mental, emotional wellness, your well-being. And then where does the self-efficacy come in? It comes in with resilience. So this, through being able to define what it is, what do you believe of the situation, and what do you want to achieve in the situation, you also build resilience to able to cope with whatever it is that you're dealing with, and to be able to bounce back quickly. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm starting to go off on a tangent.
I'm listening, and I think, because my next note, Jay, is from a coaching aspect. I always recommend, and it's probably said this 1,000 times already, I would recommend everyone who's in business or everyone who's wanting to make a bit of changes to get yourself a coach and get yourself someone who you really connect with, because if we look at the brain is designed to keep you safe. So when the coach is meant to be there to help you challenge, to help you step out and to help you redesign the thinking and the creativity behind that. And because of the stepping past that comfort zone, we tend to, especially when you have a really great coach with you and you have someone holding your hand, or someone who you can just pick up the phone and bounce a conversation off, when you have that person there, just at reach, suddenly it makes it a little bit easier to be able to challenge yourself that way. And I think, you were saying the nurses in the front line, and then to underlie that with where we're at with the vaccination. So our government is a little bit behind the rest of the world. So just to add the amount of pressure and urgency and panic, that sort of lies underneath, never mind that people are dying and people are really struggling. Our government is not doing much to support that. So, the amount of stress and angst that we're going through at the moment is at record high levels. The unemployment rate, there's so many factors that are adding to all of this. But when we do get back to the brain conversation, and we do get back to how do I do this, and how am I focus on what I'm doing and taking care of this, and really, pointing on that self-efficacy and really starting to cultivate that and know what that is. When you also have a coach helping you go through that, it becomes a little bit easier to navigate a very, very difficult situation.
Yes, of course. And the beauty of coaching and the power of coaching is that you as a coach are creating a safe space.
Yeah.
A space for a person to really think and acknowledge. Say, if you're feeling horrible and you just want to say that you're feeling horrible with all the swear words in the world, that's okay. Do it. If that's what you need in that moment, to acknowledge that this is really a horrible situation and and you don't like feeling like this, say it. It's supposed to be a safe space. And then in that safe space, when you're releasing emotion, you're releasing almost like bundled up whatever emotional stress and anxiety and overwhelmingness and all of those sort of emotional states really, really hinders your way of thinking clearly. I know we spoke about it in my last year's workshop with the divergent thinking. When can you not think creatively? When can you not think of possibilities? Is when you are so emotionally distressed that you cloud your judgment, you cloud that openness to think, because it burdens you. And when you unshackle the person from those emotional burdens, if you can say it that, then you open the field to say, okay, I've acknowledged what I needed to acknowledge. Let's do the work. Yeah. What is it that I need now? What is it that I need to help myself to go back to, whether it's the hospital, whether it's the office, whether it is my own business, and I see you see your income dwindling down and down, and you just go, oh my word, this is a nightmare. Yeah. But fine, acknowledge it. But then you go, now what? What am I going to do with this? But if you're going to constantly go, oh my word, this is awful, how am I you're going to just constantly go into like a treadmill, like that spinning mouse wheel thing. Not going to go anywhere. So that's what coaching does. Coaching opens those conversations.
Just before we started our conversation today, you and I chatted briefly about the neuroscience. Now, for me, I've been obsessed with this for the last 15 years of my life. And don't you want to touch on that from like how you brought that into this conversation as well? Because I think that lends itself so well to really understanding that our neuro ability, our brain ability, our body ability is far more stretching and able than we honestly know or care to think about.
Yes, sure. So basically, when I submitted my concept note last year to develop a coaching framework for specifically solopreneurs, I had to go and dig into the literature to see what are the stresses. What are the challenges that solopreneurs face? So solopreneurs, obviously the entrepreneur that works for himself. Like I'm a solopreneur, I think you are. You don't employ anyone in your business, do you?
Solopreneur, yeah.
You're a solopreneur too. But we have challenges. We have things where we have to overcome, and we don't have an internal support network like an organization where there's a training department or an HR department. And if you want to do a course, then you go and you maybe ask the company to fund it for you. And there's also no performance management. I know coaching's got supervision, but other than that, it's all on you. So I realized with the stress and stuff, how do we deal with the stress? And I came across noticing I'm not really a big avid I don't do meditation myself. Well, I did. And I always found it very awkward. I find myself a conceptual thinker. 100% conceptual thinker is how I've been my whole life. And you come and ask me to do breathing exercises and sit and meditate on something, I always felt so awkward. And I couldn't understand why, but I've worked it through. And then it's because I didn't find a sort of something that resonated with me and made me feel comfortable in the process. And also, I didn't understand it. So the neuroscience of it, that I discovered I did a course on neuroscience and how it is relevant in coaching and how it can actually be implemented. So it's the embodiment experience. So in coaching, we do a lot of conceptual thinking. We ask you, what do you think about this challenge? And what do you want to do here? And it's all think, think, think. But at the end of the day, what is your body telling you? So, and also, how do you get yourself calm and focus in a coaching session? And there's this one technique where they really taught us quite well. Now, I explained it to you earlier, but I feel like sharing it again.
Yeah.
And I practice it now myself, and I actually practice it quite often just to center myself, because I'm someone that gets overly excited sometimes or overly distressed, or it's the end of the world if you read like a really, just a bit of a iffy sort of email, then it's like the end of the world for me. And you just sometimes it's just bring yourself back to, okay, calm down, bring yourself back. So it's just centering yourself again. And it's the thing where you put your feet right next on the floor, next to each other, and you feel where your toes are, you feel where the soles of your feet are. You feel it. You actually just sit and concentrate on that. And then you move up, and it can happen quickly. It's not like you're going to spend minutes and hours on this. Then you quickly go, okay, where's your knees in relation to your feet? Okay, there it is. Then where's your knees in relation to your hips? Where are your hips in relation to your shoulders? And if that's quite a nice one, when you say, where my hips and my shoulders, are they like straight? Or are you sitting like a prawn?
Breathe in. As you said, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Exactly. So are you sitting like a little prawn hunched over? Or are you sitting back and overarching yourself? What is it? And then you realize, and when you open and you actually put it in a straight line, you feel your entire body just go, almost like it just gives you that upliftment.
Yeah.
Your lungs open up. It just already feels there's hope here.
Yes.
Just that feeling. And that's not thinking. That's physically feeling just that sensory, what's happening in your body. And then you can actually go further and go, let me quickly look at my breathing. Is it shallow? Is it deep? If it's going deep, where? So for me, deep is like you want your whole lungs filled.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't get it right, even if you try. But you have to practice with every breath you take out, you release something, whether it's the email or the client that upset you or the person that's knocking on your door and shouting about your dog barking, whatever it is. But you start noticing it. And that's like your body's intelligence telling you or giving you an opportunity to center yourself.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the rest of the things start falling in place.
And also, just to touch on emotion. And I think a lot of people put on a brave face, and they want to show that they're strong and they can cope, and they feel a lot of emotion, and emotion very often is pushed away or really pushed down to not be acknowledged. And yet, when you look at emotion, just considering your neuroscience and your body it's your body's way of telling you there's something to pay attention to. So emotions are so important, and if we're not, specifically in the time that we're in and the stuff that we're talking about now, the simple plain feeling of fear because of COVID, because of losing loved ones, because of what we're going through, that simple fear that sort of gets you in a knot in your stomach will drive certain types of behavior. It will drive you to start thinking differently. And if I'm not aware of just that, like noticing my emotional state and really getting it, it's like, what is this feeling? Why am I feeling it? Where is this feeling? When did it start? And really backtracking on that emotion, suddenly you again have more clarity, and lends itself to reframing, rechanging. And as a business owner, as a solopreneur, you get to be actively involved with your decision-making processes. And I think that is so important about what you're talking about today.
Yes, and decision-making is not just rational facts and thoughts. Yeah. Decision-making is also driven a lot through your intuition. And what does that actually mean? So the course really made me realize what my intuition was. So I told you earlier, like I get an intuition where I get little pins and prickles, like almost goosebumps on my arms. And I never knew what it was until they said, if something like if you hear a beautiful piece of music and you get that tingling, where do you get it? Some people feel it at the back of their necks or down their spine, or maybe in their legs or something. I literally get it in my arms.
Yeah.
And then I realized, it's my intuition talking to me all this time. Hey, old friend. And it's starting to sound like it's loony stuff. And it might be, but there's so much evidence in this already. There's so much research being done in it. And it is still very much a newish field that is emerging. But there's already so much research that can show you that the body doesn't just the brain is not the main source of intelligence. There is a body, your body is full of intelligence. So, and it's that intuition. Like, I don't know if I love the example they gave us in the course where they said, if you walk into a room or you think you saw a ghost in your head, that thing where they say, oh, that just made the hair the back of my neck stand up.
Yes.
That's emotion. That's embodied. That's your not emotional intelligence. That's your body's intelligence. That's your intuition, literally.
Yeah. And if you don't pay attention to it, like it will happen again and it happen again, and sometimes it starts showing up in different ways, and you're not realizing why this is showing up until you actually acknowledge it and start saying, okay, I'm recognizing this, I'm paying attention to it. Let me experience it. And there's so many books that I've read about. The one book is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So you experience it and you kind of go, okay, I have this fear, I know it's tangible, but feel it, go through the emotion. And when you get to the other side, speak to your coach, have them, hold you by the hand and have that good conversation. So it really challenges to be, you to be able to move forward. Yeah. So in terms of 2021, we're here, we're doing it. I'm glad that we're in it. 2020 is over. It's been so difficult. And I've always got a smiling face when I'm doing this, but I actually said to someone the other day that 2021 was one of the best years of my life and one of the worst years of my life. Mm-hmm. So, it had such a juxtaposition that I found myself in. So 2021, we're here, and I have vision. And what could you leave us with in sort of giving just a bit of inspiration for anyone listening out there? What can they do? What could be a different approach for this year?
So 2020, like you said, it had its downside to it, but it also presented opportunity that would never have come across our tables. I would never have thought that I would submit a PhD concept note. I was not ready for it yet, but yet the opportunity came across my table and I went, I'm going to go for the scholarship. And I did. If it wasn't for the COVID where I'm stuck at home, I would probably have been on the rat race trying to, service clients and actually market my own company and stuff. So what 2020 taught me, and I think it's maybe something to take away, is, it showed us that you mustn't be scared of change, because change is always going to happen. What you can control is what are you going to make with a change. See, if it's change is going to happen and there's negativity is going to happen, you may as well want to make fun. You want to have fun while it is not so nice. So do something that's new, that you thought, hey, it's on my bucket list. Maybe it's a course, maybe it's a skill, maybe it's going back to university like me. Maybe it's to start a business. Maybe, I don't know. I'm also going to enroll myself for tennis lessons, because I've always used to be a swimmer and a runner. Never played tennis, but I've always wanted to do it. But I was so absorbed with the stuff that I already know and I'm good at, the running and the swimming. But hey, tennis is going to be a nice challenge, and I'm sure it's going to be fun. A PhD is going to be absolutely challenging. It's hard, but I'm sure it's going to be fun and it's going to experience. So that's what I say. My mindset at the moment is change is going to happen, but it's what are we going to do during that change that still makes life worth living. And fun. And fun.
I absolutely agree. And, just on that note, there is a difference between knowledge and applied knowledge. We all know that change is important. We all know that change is going to happen. We know about change, and I think that's the key element. It's like, we know about this change thing, but what are you actually changing? Like, what is it? What is that tangible thing? What are you challenging yourself with? What classes are you taking? What sports are you taking up? What routines are you starting? And I think that's it's so important to be able to support the thought process with actionable behavior, because then you get to a point where it's supporting each other, and you're like, there's a reason behind it.
But the most important thing is the enjoyment. So
Yeah.
I used to, for years, be so serious, and I never could understand that work could be fun. It was just, for me, it was like it's almost like an oxymoron. Is that the word? Or like a situational irony.
Yes.
Like, don't sit in a strategy session and have fun. I mean, you can, but I was in that sort of like mindset where now I realized that I was just way too serious and too uptight about most things. So what the pandemic and lockdown taught me is that sitting on your bum on the floor and building a puzzle with your kids, that's fun. It's fun. It's simple.
Yeah.
So doing your work. When I started doing these mirror boards, and I started making my mirror boards fun and put like jokes for me when I sometimes stumble upon the little joke that I giggle to myself and I go, oh, Liezl, you're such a weirdo. But it makes it fun. And that's what I think is this year as well, 2021, we need to pump in enjoyment and fun again, because as we can see, we don't know when our time is coming. We don't know if we're the next COVID victim. I know it's grim and harsh, but that's reality. That's the change that is coming. We don't know. So maybe we can enjoy it with whatever we're doing. So
adding the joy is so important. I couldn't agree more, because we get so caught up in our brain and our thought process that we forget that at the end of the day, I've lost people to COVID. My brother was infected with COVID, and thankfully he's okay. So this is really affecting our home. Like one of our good friends is currently in hospital. So it's, as much as that happens, I get back to what is the joy about the moment, or what joy can I find in this moment now? And it doesn't last the whole day, maybe. But I still actively get involved with focusing on, well, what is the joy? Like this conversation, these conversations to me is like, this is joy, because I'm learning, I'm using my brain, and we're having good conversations. Like, that's the joy. I love it.
Exposed to my dry jokes that don't make sense.
I love it. If anyone wants to get hold of you, what's the quickest way for them to get hold of you, and where do we go?
I am on LinkedIn. My profile, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. And also, I have a website, and I've got an email address, liezl@shapeshifter.co.za. And also, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So, and also just follow your links to your posts.
On the YouTube, we're going to have links there, and we're going to share this out all over. So, guys, just check out the links. Liezl, thank you so much for chatting to us, and I will chat to you soon.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.